I was going to wait until the trains stopped passing outside before I started recording this, but then I realized that they might never stop. I mean, they will stop, but they can go on for long time at time, rambling. What I'm actually here to say is when I start to think about, ideas for things I could talk about in these videos or, in posts on Blue Sky, I often start an idea with some variation of they don't tell you about. It's a convenient trope for storytelling these kind of things. But then I realized that in my case, that's almost meaningless because on one hand, they do tell you about the various things, constipation, or constipation is honestly the main thing that I am dealing with on a day-to-day basis, besides just doing dialysis and taking so many pills. But they do tell you these things. But, it's in a handout that they've printed out or something like that. It's not the same as if I had some person telling me, hey, this is what it's like. I've been through that. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there in internet land who could give me advice or tips or just the sense that someone else has been through these things before me. But I don't know, I feel like it's hella creepy to search for friendship based upon a criterion like that. Like, hey, do you have kidney failure and do you want to be my friend? I could do that, and I'm sure plenty of people do that, and it's and they're very happy doing so. Even though these are all very different things, it almost falls into a category with nude activities and weed activities. I would love to have friends that I could, rely on to go to the clothing optional beach with me, or who have nude pool parties in the summer, even though I can't go in the pool anymore, which is pretty sad. But and in Oregon hardly anyone has a pool anyway, so yeah, it would be nice to have friends I could do these things with, either separately or together. But I don't want to search for friends on criteria like that. I don't want to join some kind of club that's like the Pot Smokers Club or, whatever. I want it to happen naturally. And, in the pot smoking one, it's in general that hasn't been too hard to find over the years. But, it'd be nice to have more people to hang out with, to drop in, whatever. And autism, that's the other third part of that thing that I forgot. I would love to have IRL autistic friends to hang out with, but I don't. I hardly hang out with anybody, so it's not like I have a huge variety of allistic people I'm hanging out with. But, you know, again, it's like, it seems weird and creepy to like join a club for the purposes of nudism, whereas it feels awesome and fun to have friends who just don't give a shit and will, you know, go to the nude beach or whatever. And I don't have that for kidney failure, kidney disease, dialysis, any of that. You know, I could probably go on to whatever social network of choice or meetup or something like that and look for, you know, hey, who wants to be friends with someone else with kidney disease? And I'm sure I could make that work. I'm sure there are people who would do that, but as I said with the other things, I just don't really want to do that. It seems weird and creepy. Whereas to have a large number of autistic friends, you know, various degrees of friendship, you know, people that I could have long conversations with versus people that I just sort of see in passing. It has taken me basically no effort to gather around me a whole crowd or a whole cloud or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's a plural noun for autistics, but a special interest of autistics. I don't know, a stim of autistics. Stim could actually be good because a stim is something that helps you cope with, you know, anxiety and the world and all of that. And, you know, good friends who understand where you're coming from are a source of comfort and self-regulation in a scary world. But as I'm saying, I didn't go looking for autistic people. I mean, some people carried over from Twitter, and again, it's like I didn't really go looking for them either, besides sometimes I would browse the actually autistic hashtag, and I actually met some people that I first found on there, but it, you know, I use Blue Sky and discover that people that I followed because I liked their posts or that I followed because they followed me are autistic, either diagnosed as children or newly diagnosed or I don't really like self-diagnosed. That's another little word tangent of mine. I like self-identified. I mean, it goes with other things that you can identify as, you know, one's gender or one's, you know, social subgroup. You know, people don't necessarily say this, but, you know, someone who is goth identifies as goth, whether they use that word or not. And I feel like discovering that you are autistic is, I don't really have the qualifications to diagnose things, but I can certainly identify myself or identify things about myself. I didn't have to make any effort at all to gather a whole lot of autistic people around me that I can, you know, just joke with. I can make some kind of autistic comment, and I still, a lot of the time, if I post something about autism, I get that imposter syndrome. And I, not only do I feel like I'm some kind of phony, but I feel like someone else is going to know that I am some kind of phony. Or even just, maybe they'll be wrong. Maybe they'll think I'm some kind of phony and call me out on something that I shouldn't be called out on. You know, there's always someone out there who says, like, self-diagnosis is not valid. I mean, what am I doing? Taking your share of the zero resources that are available for autistic adults who seem to function in society. So it's really easy for me to communicate about autism with autistic people. Oh, I remember. I was starting to say that sometimes I still will make a comment about something autistic, and some little part of me, that part gets smaller and smaller with time, but some little part of me is thinking, someone's going to jump in and be like, you're not really autistic, and everybody's going to point at you and there's going to be one of those horrifying laughing montages that when everyone's laughing at the guy in the medals and the camera goes around the circle of people doing exaggerated laughter. And you know what? That never happens. I know there are people, I have seen people commenting online saying, self-diagnosis is not valid and you need to jump through the hoops I jumped through. You need to jump through the hoops that my family had the money to pay for me to jump through, and you just haven't earned it yet, baby. In a way, it's similar to seeing the things about people who are opposed to forgiving student loan debt because, I suffer, and not the people who say this aren't even the ones who suffered, I'm sure, but they're the people who say, if we forgive this debt, that's like a slap in the face to people who already paid off their debts because they worked hard at the racism factory or whatever. While I have seen those people on Twitter, less so on Blue Sky, I believe. No one like that has ever come into one of my threads to, call my self-identification into question. What does happen is that I get likes and comments and even the beloved reskeet, repost in the language of the people who run the site, but we all know it's reskeeting. I get feedback of one kind or another from people who are active autism advocates, activists, people who know what they're talking about, people who have done the research because they're autistic, and if they get interested in something, they get interested in something. Or shall I say, when we get interested in something, we get really interested in something. And I just haven't had those people, jump in and cause problems for me. Getting back to the point at the beginning of this video, seeing the online autism community and taking part in it to varying degrees has really helped me appreciate all the support I don't have on the kidney front. I mean, people are supportive. People, Blue Sky just got DMs, and someone sent me one and said, this is my first DM. I hope it's okay, but I see your story. It seems like you have a difficult path to follow. Just some nice things. People will say nice things to me, and it's often people who care about me to some degree, personally, or just care because they're caring people and I'm a person and they care about people. But these aren't people who have dealt with this. They aren't people who have a rubber tube in their belly. They aren't people who lost their belly button. I don't know if that's a problem any other kidney patients have, but because I had an inguinal hernia, an umbilical, not an inguinal, umbilical hernia, I chose to have them fix that in the same surgery as the implanting the catheter. As long as I'm, going under, might as well do that too. They found another hernia once they were inside. The surgeon, I talked to my dialysis nurse afterwards, and she said that the surgeon himself said that my surgery was brutal, and that if he does abdominal surgeries, that he's probably seen some things. And so to me, if he says it's brutal, I'm going to take his word that it was worse than normal. But because they went in through my belly button to fix the umbilical hernia and whatever else, I now have no belly button. And that honestly is one of the weirdest things about this whole thing. I thought they were going to fix the hernia. I did not think they were going to take away my belly button. I guess rather than taking away, they just sort of closed up skin over it. When I first got the bandages off, the space where my belly button had been looked like you can plug your ears if you're a fan of a particular, common Chinese food treat. The skin was pinched together in a way that reminded me of a crab rangoon. And I'm kind of not sorry if that, affected your appreciation of crab rangoon in any way. But, I'm not hearing what it's like, what to expect, etc. I'm not hearing that from people who've been through it. I'm not hearing from people who have a tube in their stomach. I'm not hearing about it from people who hook that tube to an IV bag 2 or more times a day to fill their bodies with fluid and then drain the fluid in the morning. And if, like today, you are feeling kind of sick, so you oversleep greatly, then you don't, all of the fluid does not come back out. It's possible that in the morning I might get an extra big one when I drain the other kind of fluid. There's so much that I could tell you about all this stuff. It's actually kind of nice to go over this, because seeing all the things that I have learned and done in this process reminds me that I'm good at soaking up information and learning stuff. I wish that brain energy could have been put to use learning stuff that's more fun, but I do what I can. And it would just, the nice thing is there are people podcasting videos, and before I ever started the peritoneal dialysis, I was able to watch different people do peritoneal dialysis to themselves. I was going to make a video of myself doing that, but my dialysis room is not really suitable for doing that. Maybe someday I'll make a video. But I've seen people talk about what they go through and watched them go through some of what they go through, but that's not the same as being able to interact with people. So, they didn't tell me about so-and-so because, in a way, I don't have a they to share those things. My medical staff, my staff, the my nephrology team, um, they can tell me all sorts of things, but they're not sharing those things with me because it's not their things. And that seems like a good place to stop.